Am I the a-hole for leaving my boyfriend for no reason? Original post. I, 26 female, had been with my now ex-boyfriend Eric, 28 male, for 2 years. Overall, we had a good relationship. Nothing crazy until last night when everything completely fell apart. We were out at a bar with some of his friends, just having a normal night. Drinks, food, the usual. Eric and his friend Mark, 28 male, were joking around. And Eric made a comment about how much Mark was eating. He said something like, "Careful, Mark, you'll eat the whole damn bar." It seemed harmless at first, just typical guy humor. But then Mark looked right at me and said, "If only she knew." It was one of those moments where you instantly feel uncomfortable, like there's something going on behind your back. I had no idea what Mark was talking about, and the vibe at the table shifted immediately. Before I could even react, Eric exploded. He went off on Mark, yelling at him to shut the heck up. It even tried to get physical. His other friends had to hold him back. Mark didn't react, which only seemed to make Eric angrier. The whole thing was incredibly awkward, and we ended up leaving early. When we got back to my place, I couldn't stop thinking about that comment. I asked Eric, what did Mark mean by "if only she knew"? What don't I know? Instead of answering me, Eric lost it again. He started yelling at me, telling me to drop it and stop being paranoid. He dodged every question and got more angry each time I brought it up. I wasn't trying to pick a fight. I just wanted to know what was going on. It felt like there was something important being hidden from me, and I wasn't about to let it slide. But every time I asked, he became more defensive and angry. Eventually, he stormed out of my apartment. Since he doesn't live with me, I locked the door and called it a night. I didn't hear from him until this morning, and when I did, it was just more angry texts telling me to drop it and leave him alone. At that point, I was done. I'm not going to sit around and be treated like I'm crazy for asking a simple question. I texted him back saying we're done, that I need space, and if he can't be honest with me, then I don't want any part of this relationship. End of story. But here's where it gets worse. Eric has been going around to our mutual friends, telling them that I left him for no reason and making it seem like I'm the one who overreacted. Some of them have even reached out to me, saying I should have just let it go and that I'm blowing things out of proportion. I told them to mind their own business. None of them were there, none of them saw how he acted, and none of them have to live with a pit in their stomach that I've had since Mark's weird comment. I'm not going to stay in a relationship where I feel like something shady is going on behind my back. If Eric can't be straight with me after 2 years together, then what's the point? So Reddit, am I the a-hole for leaving him over this? Now for the top comments before reading the update. I get the distinct feeling that this is not the first time you've gotten on him about possible infidelity. You're right, sadly. A few months ago, he was staying out late when going out with friends. I asked him about it, and he stopped going out with his friends because you want this. You don't want me to be happy. Not the a-hole. Between the keeping secrets and the acting crazy, it sounds like this experience was the nail in the coffin from some previous red flags. Not the a-hole. You didn't leave for no reason. It sounds like it's good that you did. If they keep pushing, tell them to ask Eric what Mark meant. Maybe they'll see it for themselves. Nah, you're not the a-hole. Trusting your gut is important, and if he can't communicate, then you deserve better. Exactly. Not the a-hole. Eric's defensiveness and refusal to explain Mark's comments are huge red flags. You deserve honesty, and leaving a relationship where you feel something is off is completely valid. Trust your gut. You're not overreacting. Now for the update. I feel like I'm living in some kind of twisted nightmare, and the more I try to make sense of it, the worse it gets. Today, Mark called me while I was at work. I didn't expect him to call because he'd been ignoring me. I stepped outside to take the call, and he told me something I never could have prepared for in a million years. He said that Eric has been putting other men's emission into my food, drinks, skincare, products, shampoo, conditioner, and even my toothpaste. I'm not exaggerating. This is exactly what Mark told me. Apparently, Eric has been hooking up with random men, collecting their fluids in cups, and then using it in my meals and drinks, as if it were some kind of sick joke. Even as I write this, I'm still in complete disbelief. Who does that to someone? Mark said he found out about it a week ago, but for some reason, it took him that long to tell me. A whole week. I've been living my life, completely oblivious, trusting Eric, someone I loved, while this was happening behind my back. I feel so betrayed, disgusted, and violated. I asked Mark if he and Eric were having an affair, or if this was some sort of twisted thing between them. He swore they weren't, even making a gross comment about not wanting to touch Eric, because who knows what diseases he has. That made my stomach turn. I'm getting tested for everything now because I have no idea what's been in my body. When I got home, I went straight to the kitchen. Mark told me to check under the sink, and there they were, the cups, hidden behind the cleaning supplies. I lost it. I threw out everything in the kitchen and bathroom, even things I knew hadn't been touched. I don't care. Everything feels contaminated now. My home doesn't feel like a safe space anymore. Every time I walk into the kitchen, I feel like I'm going to throw up. I can't even function without my mind going to dark places, thinking about all the times I had no idea this was happening. I don't have any solid proof beyond Mark's words and those disgusting cups, and I feel so powerless. If nothing can be done about this, I honestly don't know how I'm going to cope. How is this even legal? How can someone get away with something so vile? I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust anyone again. This whole thing is messing with my head in ways I can't even explain. I feel dirty, violated on such a deep level, and there's nothing I can do to undo it. My mom wants me to check into a hospital to make sure I'm okay mentally, and I'm honestly going to do it. I don't feel stable right now. I don't feel like myself. I'm scared I might hurt myself or someone else. The most confusing part is that Eric was eating the same food. He was consuming the contaminated food right alongside me. Was it some kind of kink? A power trip? I don't even know anymore. All I know is that the man I thought I knew, the man I loved, is a complete stranger to me now. I can't believe I've been living with someone capable of something so vile. I feel like I'm losing my mind, and I don't know how I'm going to recover from this. How could he do this to me? I'm genuinely losing it. I'm a danger to myself, and I'm not going to be on here for a while. I'm checking myself into the hospital. It was only 2 days ago that you posted this. Go get all of the items you threw away out of the garbage and turn them into the police. There's your solid proof. You threw it away. And by the way, it is not legal. If those items are tested and come back positive, he is going to jail. Not a-hole. I hope you get justice. Everything I threw out was in the kitchen garbage, so it didn't get taken on trash day. My mom and cousin went to my house with the police to get it for evidence. I'm pressing charges against him. Next story. Am I the a-hole for being disgusted and just saying okay when my fiancé broke up with me? I, 28 female, had been with my fiancé Alex, 34 male, since 2020. We met at a friend's party, hit it off, and had been together ever since. He finished his doctorate in economics last year and started working at the university. I have a master's in media sciences and decided to start working instead of pursuing a PhD. Everything fell apart last Monday when Alex suddenly broke up with me. The past few months had been strange. He was making random demands and then dropping them immediately. For example, he suggested we repaint the dark green walls to white. When I asked why, he snapped. For Pete's sake. Forget it. I'd never mention it again. Another time, he got upset because I was lying on a couch under a blanket. I had cramps, accusing me of just sitting there watching Netflix, even though the house was spotless. When I tried to discuss it, he brushed it off as not a big deal. These incidents became more frequent. Every time I tried to communicate and figure out if something was wrong or if he was just stressed, he would insist everything was fine, but he clearly seemed angry. He found something to complain about constantly: the apartment, my clothes, me, his work. I decided to give him some space, but even that seemed to be wrong. When I told him I'll be helping my parents with some repairs for a few days, he got upset because he wanted to renovate our apartment too. Last Monday, I received a text saying we needed to talk. I had a feeling this was coming, and I had made peace with the idea that it might be over. When I got home, he was sitting on a couch and didn't even wait for me to take off my jacket before saying, "I want to break up." Then he launched into a rant. He said he resented me because I didn't pursue my academic career further, even though I was capable. He admitted he had kept his feelings to himself because he didn't want to upset me. He then brought up the fact that, while he was a PhD student making very little money, I had started earning more. He felt like I had a final say financially, even though I never imposed that on him. It was his own perception, and he resented it. He continued saying he hated the paint color, the couch, and even our crockpot. Then, he revealed that he had been accepted into a better PhD program overseas, but turned it down to stay because I had already started my job. He said I ruined his life because he saw a friend in that program thriving and felt like he had sacrificed too much for our relationship. He claimed I had too much control over his life and that he hated the idea that I could screw him over financially, even though I have no idea what he meant by that. He also said he was frustrated that all his friends liked me and wouldn't let him vent about me. After all that, he simply said, "I'm done." I was floored, but after hearing that rant, I was mostly disgusted. I had already accepted that our relationship might end, but his outburst left me with no doubt. I looked at him and said, "Okay." That response sent him to a rage. He said this was exactly what he meant, that it was horrible that we had been together for 4 years, and all I could say was, "Okay." I asked if he wanted to stay in the apartment while he figured out his next steps, and he accused me of holding the apartment over him and began ranting again. So I just left. I told my parents and they were as confused as I was. My dad suggested I talk to our landlord to see what options I had. I can cover the rent myself with no problem, as Alex only contributed to utilities and a few subscriptions. To be clear, I never had an issue with our financial situation. I saw Alex chasing his dreams, and that was more important to me than splitting expenses 50-50. I made good money and was happy at my job. I never saw it as a burden. I always believed that my money was our money because we were building a life together. Of course, I had my own savings and fun money, but I never cared about a split as long as he was working towards something meaningful. Now, Alex is still angry. He alternates between robotic texts about logistics and being a seething jerk, complaining about everything. I'm no longer hurt. I'm just nauseated by him at this point. Should I have reacted differently? Edit. Thank you for all your opinions. It felt good to get this off my chest. Just to clarify, I don't feel like a victim. It's clear that something changed and our relationship went bad. He acted like an a-hole, but that's the extent of it. It's obvious something is going on with him, but he doesn't want me to be a part of whatever it is, and I have to respect that. Now, I just need to disentangle myself from him legally, and then I'll be left with the ugly green walls. I might also adopt a cat, since my ex was really allergic. Not a-hole. Dude basically said he hates you and everything about you. What are you supposed to do? Beg for his love when you can find someone who'll give it to you readily? Nah. Sorry this happened and that you were blindsided, but this will be a good thing in the long run. On to the next. For what it's worth, he sounds jealous, insecure, and emotionally stunted. If what you've written is how things played out, then you dodged a huge bullet. He was basically doing his own renditions of 10 things I hate about you. I don't know. I mean, he wants to break up with me. Why would I plead? It is done. OP, you are incompatible. You are successful while he is a loser. PhD but can't communicate. Econ major but didn't know there is no money in the university. Resents you for his decisions. You dodged a nuclear crazy one. I think working in the uni is really admirable and is really hard. Professors and researchers are amazing, and I think there should be more money in academia. That is why I never minded being the breadwinner. Dude basically hates himself for decisions he took without ever consulting you. He chose his comforts, but now since others seem in a better position, he is venting on you and making you the culprit. Not a-hole, but your man has a little brain and doesn't know what to do with it. I would have supported him if he wanted to move away. I don't know if we would have stayed together because LDRs are hard, but I would have been 100% supportive. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my brother a character letter to help his court trail after what he did to a friend's daughter? So I, 28 female, have a brother, 31 male, who is looking at serving time in prison for relations with a minor, 14 female, who is one of my friend's daughter. This has been going on for months as evidence states, and we only found out a few weeks ago. When I found out about this, I had a discussion with my friend and apologized for what happened. But understandably, she wants space. I have also cut off my brother, as this whole situation is just disgusting to me. My parents, however, have stayed by his side and are trying to say the only reason he did what he did is because he has autism and didn't know what he was doing was wrong. Despite them being shown text messages where he states himself that what he was doing was bad and he could be sent to prison for it. However, after they spoke to my brother's lawyer, he stated that we could each write up a character letter to be presented for him in court, so the judge can have better understanding of who he is beside the incident. But I refused because I don't think he deserves it. I'm currently 6 months pregnant and I don't want my daughter to be around or grow up with a man like my brother. I've spoken to my husband about this for another opinion and he agrees with me not submitting a character letter. But we are thinking of talking to the children that my brother was around in the family just to make sure that he doesn't done anything to them. My mother is dying and she says she doesn't want to pass while her son is serving time in prison for something that, in her words, wasn't that bad. Both her and my father are pressuring me to do this, and seeing them so upset is hard for me. But whenever I even think about doing it, it makes me sick. I just wanted to ask for everyone else's opinion on what I should do. Me and my brother were extremely close up until this point, which I think is making this harder for me. Should I cut out my parents too? Should I make the letter? Not the a-hole. I didn't even need to read past the first few sentences. People like him don't deserve remorse. Nor do they need people minimizing their actions as it wasn't too bad. For who? The victim? The child that was groomed by their adult son? OP, 100% not the a-hole, and if necessary, go low or no contact with those who are supportive of your brother. Make it clear to your mom that any character statement you give will make it explicitly clear that brother's autism is not and will never be an excuse. That he has full mental faculties and ability to make legal and moral choices, as well as the fact he knows damn well that what he did is wrong. I'm autistic. Anyone with autism incapable of monitoring themselves is the legal responsibility of those caring for them. If your brother truly was incapable of understanding what he was doing, then he should be living with your parents, under constant supervision, with heavy limits to online facilities and his phone/search history regularly checked. Either he's capable of being a disgusting offender all by himself and has hidden it all this time because he knows what he's done is wrong, or your parents willingly and knowingly enabled him to rape a minor. Because that's what it is. She's beneath the age of consent. See if you can get hold of the text messages where he admits he knew it was wrong to hand in to the police. People like him will not stop until they are stopped. Your friend's daughter is, so far, the most accessible victim he could get his hands on. If everyone outside family keeps their children away from him, he'll turn on the kids he does have access to. Not the a-hole.